ground zero. It's not just where food goes to get digestion. It's ground zero for immune activity, inflammation control, nutrient absorption, right? When gut function breaks down, it's not just your digestion that suffers, it's your brain, your skin, your hormones, energy. They all take a hit.
Welcome to Health Decoded, your number one source for real health information, with your hosts, Dr. Alessi and Matt Tack.
Hey, Health Decoded listeners. Dr. Alessi here. Let me ask you a serious question. Are you tired of waiting until something goes wrong to finally see a doctor? At Alessi Functional Health, we take a different approach, the right approach. We believe true healthcare isn't about chasing symptoms. It's about preventing them in the first place. That's why we created the Alessi Total Care Program. This is a functional medicine-based membership that gives you proactive, personalized care year-round. You'll get access to comprehensive blood work and functional testing, custom doctor-grade nutraceuticals, deep discounts on labs, protocols, and follow-ups, as well as 24/7 direct access to your doctor, not just a 10-minute checkup that ends with another prescription. And here's the best part. As a Health Decoded listener, you'll get your first 3 months completely free when you sign up for an annual membership. That's on top of hundreds in savings already built into the program. This is your chance to take responsibility for your health and join a movement that's redefining what primary care should look like. Head on over to alessifunctionalhealth.com, click on our services tab, and go to Total Care. Learn more about this program and claim your exclusive podcast listener offer. Your health is your greatest asset. Let's protect it proactively. Welcome back to another episode of Health Decoded. I am your host, Dr. Alessi.
And your co-host, Matt Tack.
Matt Tack. What's going on, brother?
Man, a lot of really good things. Excited to dive into this episode on gut health and protecting my gut at the end of the day. I know that's one of the most important things you can do for your body. But what's been new with you?
Not much, man. We're just getting very busy with the clinic and the new things we're adding. So it's almost like one of those things where every day that we're building out new systems, then another thing comes up that is like, oh, we should do this. It's like, oh, we should add this. So I feel like I don't want to say like behind on stuff, but it's like always like we're never caught up. And I think that's just the nature of having so many things going on, but it's all good stuff. So nothing to complain about, obviously.
It's the nature of the vision.
That's right, man. I always love these mornings where we get to sit down and chat and just kind of give some value to the listeners here and to our community. And, specifically today, this one was something that we talked about wanting to get some real nitty gritty on, gut health in particular. We addressed this in a lot of the past episodes in other ways, but more on like a surface level. So we're going to get into it today. And so this is going to be a good topic that I think people are going to get a lot of value out. So, if gut health is something you're interested in learning more about, if you have gut issues or know someone who has, listen to this episode. I think it's going to really change your perspective as well as give you some actionable things that you can do to improve your gut.
Yeah, well, let's jump right in. And the question is then, what is the gut, really? And here it is. Your gut isn't just a digestive pipe. It's a highly intelligent, dynamic ecosystem spanning about 30 feet in length. It includes your mouth, esophagus, stomach, small and large intestines, pancreas, liver, and your gallbladder. But the true star of the show, the gut microbiome, a complex community of over 100 million microorganisms, including bacteria, viruses, fungi, and archaea. So together, these microbes form a symbiotic relationship with us, meaning they rely on us for nutrients, and we rely on them for everything from digestion to immune system. So let's go ahead and break this down a little bit further. The small intestine, specifically the ileum, is where most nutrients absorb occurs, right? And it's lined with villi and microvilli, tiny finger-like projections that increase surface area and interact directly with food and microbes. So the large intestine, the colon, houses the majority of your microbes who ferment fibers into beneficial short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which help reduce inflammation and feed the cell lining in your colon. The enteric nervous system, often called the second brain, contains over 100 million neurons, more than the spinal cord itself. This system allows the gut to function semi-independently from the brain and even produce its own neurotransmitters. Now, here's why it's so important and some key stats. So 70 to 80% of the immune system is located in the gut, particularly within gut-associated lymphoid tissue, GALT. This immune tissue is constantly sampling food, microbes, and toxins to determine what's friend or foe. So your microbiome influences over 90% of your serotonin production, one of your most important mood regulating neurotransmitters. There are more microbial genes in your body than human genes. And get this. So, in fact, your microbiome outnumbers your human DNA by 150 to 1 in terms of gene count. That's how influential it is. So, another key function in the gut is the gut-brain axis. Now, here it is. The gut-brain axis is a biodirectional communication network lining the emotional and cognitive centers of the brain with the enteric nervous system. This communication occurs via, number one, the vagus nerve, which is your cranial nerve 10, your cytokines, which are the inflammatory messengers that respond to infection, neurotransmitters like GABA, serotonin, and dopamine that signal the brain, and the microbial byproducts like short-chain fatty acids. So here's what's fascinating, is that the gut sends more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the gut, meaning how you feel mentally can often be traced back to what's going on in your gut and why it is truly your second brain. And here's a quote from the Nature Reviews Immunology in 2020. Disruptions in gut microbiota are associated with inflammatory and autoimmune conditions. So let's get to the fun part. Here's a fun fact that you may not know. Your body has over 30 trillion human cells, but you carry an estimated 39 trillion bacterial cells. In other words, you are more bacteria than even human. So another amazing thing you need to know about your gut is the gut barrier. The lining of the gut is only one cell layer thick, about the width of a human hair. It's designed to be selectively permeable, letting in nutrients while keeping pathogens and toxins out. But when this lining is damaged due to inflammation, stress, poor diet, it becomes leaky, allowing harmful substances to enter your bloodstream, triggering inflammation and autoimmune responses system-wide. We've discussed this in previous episode, but here's the takeaway. If your gut is inflamed, your whole body is inflamed. That's why gut health is the starting point for fixing everything else: energy, mood, hormones, immune function, skin, metabolism. Everything ties back to health and the balance of your microbiome.
Yeah, man, that's such a good overview of the gut. And now it's like, okay, now we know what it is, right? And listeners have an idea. Now, how do we know if there's something wrong? That's always the next question. So let's get into, like, how do you know if you have some kind of gut issue or problem with your gut? And really, it's going to be the symptoms. So one of the most overlooked truths in medicine is really that if your symptoms are happening everywhere, you need to start with your gut. That's just what we talked about. It's ground zero. It's not just where food goes to get digestion. It's ground zero for immune activity, inflammation control, nutrient absorption, right? When gut function breaks down, it's not just your digestion that suffers, it's your brain, your skin, your hormones, energy. They all take a hit. So let's talk about what are some of the common symptoms of gut dysfunction and what you should be on the lookout for. So most people assume gut issues are going to equal things like gas, bloating, or IBS. And while this is true, the signs also go much deeper, and they can show up in places you wouldn't expect. So some of the digestive symptoms that you're going to experience would be bloating, belching, gas, constipation or diarrhea, and even reflux. However, Deeper symptoms that could associate with gut dysfunction that people might not expect are things like cognitive and mood symptoms. So brain fog and fatigue, poor memory, anxiety and depression. Oftentimes, skin symptoms are a big indicator of gut dysfunction. Things like acne, eczema, psoriasis, or rosacea, which is basically red coloring. And then immune and hormone dysregulation. Things like Hashimoto's, rheumatoid arthritis. These are autoimmune conditions. Infertility, weight gain, and PMS. These can all be linked back to the gut. So the connection is when your gut is inflamed, your immune system becomes overactive, leading to systemic inflammation and autoimmune risk. So now let's talk about the big 4 gut dysfunction patterns, what they are, and then how they show up. So number one, and this is something we see a lot in our clinic and we treat a lot of patients for, is leaky gut or intestinal permeability, right? And you just talked about how the gut lining is just one cell layer thick. It's very skinny and it allows for certain things to come in and then other things to not come in. It's selectively permeable. So normally your gut lining is a tightly sealed barrier made of those epithelial cells linked together by what are called tight junctions. But when it gets inflamed, those tight junctions can loosen, creating microscopic holes that now allow toxins, bacteria, and undigested food particles into the bloodstream. This triggers activation of the immune system and can lead to autoimmune conditions, things like Hashimoto's, lupus, or rheumatoid arthritis. It also can lead to brain inflammation, which will obviously manifest such as mood disorders and anxiety. And it can lead to worsening of food sensitivities. So as the body starts to mount responses to those food particles, it's going to increase those sensitivities as well. Some of the more common triggers for this are going to be things like gluten, alcohol, non-steroidal anti-inflammatories like ibuprofen. Stress is a big one, processed foods, and antibiotics. So there was a study done in clinical reviews in allergy and immunology in 2019, which basically said increased intestinal permeability is directly linked to autoimmune disease, IBS, and chronic fatigue. So basically proven that, when you're having this intestinal permeability, you are going to be at more risk for those things. So the next one is SIBO, which stands for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So SIBO occurs when bacteria that should stay in the large intestine overgrows back into the small intestine. The small intestine is where nutrient absorption takes place. And so what happens is those bacteria start to ferment your food too early, which will often look like gas and bloating, especially after eating carbohydrates or fibers. This can then lead to nutrient malabsorption of things like B12 and iron. And so if those are often low on blood work associated with gut issues, we're thinking things like SIBO. This can also manifest like constipation or diarrhea. And then obviously intolerance to fiber and prebiotics because of that symptom associated with digesting those things. So SIBO is often a hidden cause of IBS in about 70% of cases. And it's often overlooked because why? Well, Western medicine doctors often don't even recognize it. They don't consider it an actual thing. And so, that's the confusing part, is that it's shown to have been proven as this is real. People deal with this all the time. This is something we help people with all the time. However, there's just this disconnect between Western medicine and functional medicine. And so next on the list here is Candida overgrowth. What Candida is a yeast that is naturally existing in the gut, but when it overgrows, usually due to excess sugar intake or antibiotics or even low stomach acid, it's going to cause you to crave sugar. It's going to cause fatigue, brain fog, and then you can even get this, what's called oral thrush, or basically like a white coating on your tongue, and that's the yeast forming. And so then this also can manifest like recurring yeast infections. So Candida can worsen leaky gut symptoms, and then it can downregulate your immune system as well. And then number 4 on this list is one that's maybe more obscure, but also more common than people think. And this is parasite infections. It's not just a third world problem anymore. Parasites can easily be picked up from things like undercooked food, contaminated water, or if you're traveling abroad, but also from things that are close to home, like having pets in the home, right? If the pets are outside in the dirt and they're eating things and then they're not properly cleaned, that hygiene, right? And so once inside, the parasites can hijack your nutrients and they can start to pre-digest food that your body should be digesting. This can cause inflammation and it can damage your gut lining as well. Some major symptoms are going to look like chronic bloating and diarrhea, night sweats, things like nutrient deficiencies, anemia, and weight loss. And then obviously persistent fatigue as well. It's like your body is trying to get the nutrition and energy it needs, but it can't because it's being hijacked. And so remember the mind-body connection that Matt just talked about. When you have a disrupted gut microbiome, it can alter the gut-brain axis as well, which contributes to those mood disorders. Studies show that patients with depression, anxiety, chronic fatigue often have elevated markers of leaky gut and inflammation in the bloodstream. So essentially, inflammation in the gut is going to directly equal inflammation in the brain. The two go hand in hand. So what's the takeaway here? If you have symptoms that are scattered, fatigue, brain fog, anxiety, skin rashes, hormonal imbalance, you don't want to go chasing each one of these individually with a different thing, right? People often just throw some cream on an eczema. They start taking some SSRIs for anxiety and depression, but often they're linked to your gut. So that's where you want to start. So it's not just about what you eat, but it's about what you absorb and what your microbiome then does with it. So healing the gut will create a ripple effect throughout the body. And that's really our approach at Alessi Functional Health, is getting to the root cause. So now let's do this. Let's talk about what specific tests we can use to get to the bottom of your symptoms and then ultimately heal them for good. But real quick, before Matt gets into that, let's take a quick word from one of our sponsors.
This episode of Health Decoded is brought to you by Authentic Nutrition, the brand redefining what it means to fuel your body the right way. At Authentic Nutrition, they believe that what you put into your body matters. That's why every single product is crafted with clean, premium ingredients and dosed with maximum efficacy to ensure you're not just meeting your health goals, you're exceeding them. No fillers, no shortcuts, no gimmicks. Whether it's their advanced supplements for energy, recovery, or gut health, you can trust that what's on the label is exactly what's in the bottle. Authentic Nutrition delivers science-backed formulations that work as hard as you do. If you're tired of products that promise the world but don't deliver, it's time to make the switch to Authentic Nutrition. Elevate your health with transparency, quality, and results you can feel. Check them out today at AuthenticNutrition.com and use promo code Alessi15 to get 15% off. That's THENTIC nutrition.com, promo code ALESSI15 to save 15% and take the first step toward real, lasting health. Authentic Nutrition, fuel your best self. Now back to the episode.
And welcome back. So here we go. How to test your gut and stop all the guesswork. You can't fix what you don't measure. While symptoms give us clues, advanced gut testing gives us the actual blueprint of what's going wrong inside your digestive system. Without it, you're guessing, and guessing leads to wasted time, money, and frustration. Think of it like this. If your car starts making some strange noises, would you guess what's wrong? Or plug it into a diagnostic system, or take it to a mechanic, right? Let's break down the most accurate, functional, clinical, useful tests that provide real answers, not just the labels. So number one, comprehensive stool test. This is the gold standard for analyzing your entire digestive ecosystem. A high-quality test, like the ones we use at Alessi Functional Health, evaluate these different factors. Number one, bacterial balance, both good and harmful strains. Two, opportunistic pathogens, E. coli, cholesterol, all these things yield what we look at. Number three, yeast and fungal overgrowth. As Dr. Alessi mentioned, candida, a big factor in that. Number four, parasites. Number five, digestive capacity. Number six, immune markers. And number seven, inflammation markers. So what these tests tell us, whether your microbiome is inflamed, if you're absorbing nutrients, and if there's something foreign causing damage like parasites or even yeast. So here's a quote from Frontiers of Microbiology in 2021 said, stool DNA tests are a reliable method to evaluate microbiota diversity and pathogenetic overgrowth. So here we go into a second test, zonulin, or lactulose mannitol test, which is your leaky gut panel. And these are functional markers of intestinal permeability. So as Dr. Alessi mentioned, that small, skinny, hair-like feature that is our gut, right? So zonulin is a protein that regulates tight junctions in your gut lining. Evaluating zonulin equals likely a leaky gut. And the second one we talked about was lactulose mannitol test. Involves drinking sugars and measuring their appearance in urine. If large sugars, lactulose, appear, your gut lining is too porous. So these tests are essential if you have autoimmunity, food sensitivities, brain fog, or fatigue after eating, and chronic joint pain or skin flares. Here we go with another one, and our third one of food sensitivity testing. So these panels, unlike true food allergies, which are IgE responses, these tests look at delayed immune responses. So when your gut barrier is compromised, the food proteins leak into your bloodstream and trigger immune functions hours or even days later. And the most common reactive foods are number 1, gluten, number 2, dairy, number 3, eggs, number 4, soy, and number 5, corn. So here's a tip. Elimination diets work, but often take months or longer, and this test can fast track what to remove and for how long. So here's another test, is the Dutch or the organic acid testing. Well, not direct gut test, but both can reveal secondary signs of gut dysfunction. So organic acid test, also known as OAT, shows yeast and fungal overgrowth, candida, bacterial fermentation markers, and nutrient deficiencies caused by dysbiosis. And for your Dutch hormone test, the measurable cortisol, chronic stress weakens the gut lining, and estrogen metabolism is gut health effects estrogen clearance. So you want those two to level out. These are especially helpful if symptoms go beyond digestion, like fatigue, hormonal imbalance, or even mood changes, if you're seeing those. And here's why all this matters, right? So most people go years treating surface symptoms, gas, acne, fatigue, with over-the-counter meds or diets, never realizing their microbial imbalance at the root. And a single round of antibiotics or chronic stress can disrupt your microbiome for months or even years. So testing allows you to do 3 things. Identify which bacteria are missing or overgrown. See if you have leaky gut or inflammation. And then tailor your nutrition and supplementation based on your biology. So here's the takeaway. Don't guess, test. So whether it's SIBO, candida, parasites, or permeability, gut dysfunction is measurable at its core, and it's fixable. A simple $300 to $500 test may save you thousands of dollars in supplements, wasted doctor's visits, and years of trial and error diets. You can't heal what you can't see. So testing gives you the roadmap and not just a symptom list.
Nice, man. Yeah, and that's, you basically just named kind of what we do as far as testing in the clinic at Alessi Functional Health. We often start with symptoms. Okay, what are the symptoms? That'll tailor us towards what tests we're going to use. And then usually it looks like starting with the leaky gut and food sensitivity test. Those are the first 2 most people are going to do. And then if there's more in depth, then yes, we'll run a gut stool test. And then on the back end of that, if we need to, if there's more of the hormonal factor, we'll run the Dutch or the OAT test. So we have all these different things at our disposal, like you said, to really test it, rather than like, I'm going to try a bunch of stuff and see if it works. I'm going to try a bunch of stuff and see if it works. And then you're years down the line and nothing has changed. It's like, no, let's just get to the bottom of it right away. It's quick, it's easy. And now we know. And so now we know what to look for what we can do to test for. Now let's talk about how we fix it, right? How do we heal the gut? And so basically, I'm going to take you guys through kind of our protocol. But the thing to know is that the gut can heal. It just takes a plan, not just the guesswork. And so the most effective functional medicine approach to restoring gut health is really what we use called the 5R protocol. And so this is a clinically proven framework. It's helped thousands of patients overcome everything from IBS to autoimmune conditions, chronic fatigue. And basically think of it as like a systematic gut renovation, tearing down the bad, rebuilding the good, and then stabilizing for long term. And so what the 5R gut protocol looks like, this is the exact protocol we use at Alessi Functional Health to help hundreds of people restore their gut to health. So number one, the first R is remove. So here's where you have to eliminate what's damaging your gut in the first place. Things like inflammatory foods, gluten, dairy, processed sugars, seed oils, artificial sweeteners, any foods that would have been elevated IgE or IgG on a food sensitivity test. Things like pathogens, bacteria, parasites, yeast, and mold, all identified through testing. We need to remove these. And then a non-negotiable with any patient we work with is removing alcohol. And then obviously those over-the-counter NSAID drugs, as well as helping them to avoid certain environmental toxins that maybe they're putting on their body through skin creams or in their home. So you can start with like a 30-day elimination diet, cutting out those common triggers, watching for your symptom improvements like less bloating, clearer skin, better sleep, reduced joint pain. And kind of a tip to that is making sure you're reading labels, right? Gluten and sugar are hiding everywhere in condiments, in healthy bars, protein bars. These companies want to sneak these things in there because they're cheaper and they can increase the value of that product, but it's ultimately not healthy, even if it says healthy on the label. So then the second R in the 5Rs is to now replace. So now you're going to start supporting your digestive capacity. So if you're bloated after meals and have undigested food in your stool, or you feel full real quickly, you may not be producing enough stomach acid or digestive enzymes. So this is often where we start with the support of the digestion. So we use things like HCl, which is a crucial stomach acid for protein breakdown and killing pathogens. We support with digestive enzymes to help absorb the fats, carbs, and proteins that you eat, as well as things like bile salts to support that fat digestion, as well as detox through the gallbladder. And so some symptoms of low stomach acid are things like burping or bloating after meals, acid reflux, and then craving protein. Now, what we often see and what I see a ton is someone presents with reflux to their primary care doc or their medical doc, and the doc puts them on like a proton pump inhibitor or like a Nexium to lower the acid, when the problem is not low acid, or the problem is not high acid, it's low acid. And they're getting those symptoms because the food is not being broken down and it's starting to ferment and sit in the stomach before going into the small intestine, and that's causing a reflux, that's causing inflammation. So then they go throwing a proton pump inhibitor on top of that, and it actually worsens the problem and starts to make the person very sick. And so usually someone comes in with that, I say, okay, we're going to stop the proton pump inhibitor for a week. We're going to do what's called a baking soda test. Very simple, free test you can do at home. You take a quarter teaspoon of baking soda, you put it in 4 ounces of water, first thing in the morning, empty stomach, and you drink it. You should burp within 2 to 3 minutes. Now, if you don't, that means you have low stomach acid and you're not getting that bicarbonate reaction that causes gas. So that's an easy test and it's free. And we do that for pretty much everyone who is on a proton pump inhibitor. And so then what's our number 3, right? We went through remove, replace. Now we need to re-inoculate the gut. So we're going to start restoring healthy bacteria. So once the gut has been cleaned out, there's some fasting involved in this protocol as well to give the gut time to heal. It's time to now repopulate the beneficial microbes. So we're going to use things like probiotics, obviously high colony multi-strains, lactobacillus, bifidobacterium. These are the ones that we use to re-inoculate the gut. And then if we did a gut test and we found there was a exorbitantly low in one area, we're going to obviously pump that up. And then we're going to use things like prebiotics as well to feed those probiotics. Fibers like inulin, oligosaccharides, and resistant starch, they're going to feed this good bacteria. And then, using foods as well. We were all about functional foods like fermented veggies, kefir, and then, like artichoke and green banana. Obviously, we would avoid the yogurt if someone is dairy intolerant. And so just real quick, kind of to the point, there's targeted probiotics are going to reduce leaky gut and systemic inflammation in just 4 weeks. This has been proven in the journal Gut Microbes in 2022. And so we always start slow with the probiotics and prebiotics. Some people need to obviously address SIBO or Candida before they really start re-inoculating aggressively, or else you're just going to refeed that whole process. And so now number 4 is repair. So now that we've got it healed and re-inoculated, we're going to rebuild the gut lining, right? If you have that leaky gut and that damaged gut lining, we can use certain things like L-glutamine, which is basically going to fuel those enterocytes, which are the gut cells. Zinc carnosine heals ulcers and tightens those junctions. Collagen and bone broth are rich in glycine and proline, which is used for tissue repair. And then things like aloe vera and deglycinated licorice are going to basically soothe inflammation, but they can also increase the mucosal lining of the gut. So here's a tip: is drinking warm bone broth daily or taking collagen peptides in smoothies, right? Those are easy ways to get those in. And then the biggest thing is still avoiding alcohol, the NSAIDs, which break down, and then processed junk food, which this breaks down the gut lining faster than you can repair it, right? So you're not going to go trying to put out a fire and then be fueling a fire here, right? Makes no sense. And then so the fifth R and the final one is rebalance, right? So we align the lifestyle with the gut healing. Your gut doesn't heal in isolation. Your nervous system, your circadian rhythm, these all play a huge role. So chronic stress and that elevated cortisol will just return that leaky gut because it's going to keep breaking things down. So we always incorporate lifestyle medicine into our functional medicine practices. Rebalancing practices look like daily breath work and meditation, 5 to 10 minutes a day. Making sure you're going to bed and waking up at consistent times, balancing that circadian rhythm. Sunlight in the morning, reducing blue light, and then regular moderate exercise. The zone 2 cardio that Matt always talks about is how you're going to really get your body into a calmed, balanced nervous system state. And then strength training as well. And so sleep is really non-negotiable when working with gut dysfunction, because deep sleep is when those gut lining repairs and bacterial rebalancing happens most. So real quick, just some supplements to consider: L-glutamine for repairing the gut lining, zinc carnosine healing and soothing the inflammation, a probiotic recolonizes beneficial bacteria, and then the enzymes for supporting nutrient absorption. So we always like to give some real practical tips that we want to leave you guys with. So the things you can implement today and start with would be things like cutting gluten, dairy, and sugar and alcohol for 30 days and see how much better you feel, right? That will tell you if there's something going on. Adding fermented foods 3 to 4 times a week. Caveat here is if that makes you feel worse, more than likely a SIBO kind of overgrowth. Bone broth or collagen powder in smoothies. Supporting sleep and stress management. And then professional grade probiotics with high colony counts, 20 to 50 billion. And so the takeaway, right? You can heal your gut, but not with half measures. It's not just about taking a probiotic. It's about consistently layering in the right foods, supplements, and habits, but in a strategic order. The 5 R's are the blueprint to rebuild the gut, and then in turn, rebuild your brain, immunity, energy, and overall health. When you do it correctly and in the proper order, this can be a permanent solution. That being said, this is a complicated strategy and often difficult for people to implement on their own without guidance. So we always suggest working with a qualified functional medicine doctor who has experience with treating gut issues. So we want to thank you guys for joining us. We hope this was valuable. If you want to learn more about functional medicine and the programs that can help you improve the health of your gut, go to alessifunctionalhealth.com, schedule a consultation with myself or one of my team members, and let's create a personalized plan for your gut health. Listeners of the Health Decoded podcast always get exclusive discounts and price reductions on all of our protocols and our lab tests.
And as always, if you found today's show, please like, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. That's how we grow this message and change more lives. So, and want to get in touch with us or be featured on an episode? Email us at ask@alessifxhealth.com. And then, as always, as Dr. Alessi said, you can visit us at alessifxhealth.com, sign up for a newsletter, and check out the resource pages to learn more about our approach to nutrition and cutting-edge therapies.
Thank you again for tuning in to Health Decoded, where we are breaking down the science, busting the myths, and helping you take control of your health naturally. Until next time, stay curious, stay empowered, and remember, your health is in your hands.
Thank you for tuning in to Health Decoded, where we break down the truth about all things health and empower you to take charge of your well-being. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. For more resources and personalized support, visit us at alessifunctionalhealth.com and sign up for our newsletter. To hear your questions answered live on the show, send them to ask@alessifxhealth.com. That's ask@alessifxhealth.com. Until next time, stay curious, stay empowered, and remember, your health is in your hands.